Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero!
The English Premier League, the most popular and richest football league in the world. Almost 30 years on from its inception, it continues to get bigger audiences, crossing more cultural boundaries, all in the name of capitalism. Astronomical investments, inflated transfers and salaries for celebrity players, as eye-watering television and sponsorship deals have made it a multinational and multicultural game viewed by billions around the world. The Premier League has become football's own Hollywood, as the influx of star players and managers into the league has brought with it its own elitist culture.
I think I'm a special one.
However, the globalisation of the league via the media has also raised a number of issues with the fans. The alteration of the political economy between the traditional matchday going fan and the Premier League has changed. The English Premier League is the most watched league in the world, as 3.2 billion people watched on as Liverpool and Man City fought for the title in the 2018-19 season. So why have fan movements against their respective clubs multiplied in recent times?
The football ground of the late 1980s, there was a feeling of a lack of safety. So there were tragic events related to safety, but there was also separately a hooliganism problem as well from the point of view of the clubs. It forced them to invest. That means they now have these great modern facilities that are very attractive for people to come along to. People feel safe coming to the game. You now see a much more mixed audience in terms of gender, in terms of race, and so it's a much more sort of open and inclusive environment for people to come to.
Rupert Murdoch signed a satellite TV deal for the rights to broadcast the newly reformed Premier League in 1992 for approximately £304 million over 5 years. Sky's deal to broadcast the Premier League exclusively via a subscription-based model would implement a change in how sports is viewed globally. Sky's big money deal would see a massive influx of capital within the league, coupled with the EU's freedom of movement law, meant English clubs could now afford to sign the best players from around the world, who in turn would bring with them large international audiences that would then watch the Premier League, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Mohamed Salah and Heung-min Son. In addition, their ability to broadcast the league globally transformed the English Premier League into a supranational league, transcending international boundaries at ease. Sky's creation of its own football vortex was a revolutionary decision in extending football discussions between the public from a weekend tradition to daily consumption of content. With the introduction of Sky Sports News, pre- and post-match analysis, extended highlight shows and general discussions of the daily ongoings in English football through TV, podcasts and now social media as a way of media convergence.
Goals! Oh! If you want a moment.
The subsequent interest generated through the globalisation of the league alerted international sponsors who further increased capital in the league and ultimately completely reinvent how the Premier League's political economy functions. The Premier League is funded by broadcasters purchasing their TV rights and through sponsors who fund individual clubs and purchase naming rights to competitions and stadia. In return, the media gain massive viewership, while sponsors are being advertised to potential consumers worldwide. In addition to this, both the media and sponsors have a relationship too, with the media selling advertising slots to sponsors for further exposure to audiences. However, this funding from external forces has altered the actual product itself, as games are now scheduled to satisfy broadcasters' programming in order to maximise viewership. There has also been an increase in sponsorship on jerseys, the introduction of electronic advertising boards surrounding the pitches, and stadia naming rights. This process of commercialisation on a global scale has created the richest league in the world, so much so that foreign billionaires have been purchasing clubs with little intention of making a profit. They do so in order to capitalise on the respective clubs' revenue and marketing streams overseas.
If you go around the world, it's the Premier League that you see, it's Premier League jerseys that you typically see, and those are the clubs that people are most interested in.
By accumulating more sponsors and broadening both the club's brand and the owner's own brand. For example, the majority of these foreign owners own more than one sports team. Stan Kroenke is the major shareholder of Arsenal and owns the LA Rams.
We're very thankful to partner with Arsenal today and really elevate this experience for the Los Angeles Rams.
This allows him to cross-market both brands to their different international audiences, leading to increased merchandise sales and international interest. The Premier League's development of a transnational audience is far superior to its national audience in numbers, and has ultimately led to tension, as local fans feel the influx of new ownerships and the increase of cost to follow their club has left them feeling alienated by what they see as nothing more than capitalistic gain. There are two main types of fans in the Premier League, local and global, or real fans and casual fans. Both types operate through different cultural behaviours to illustrate their support, or what Pierre Bourdieu calls their own habitus. These separate habituses consist of opposing cultural capital, the local fans being the inner circle as there is less of them, and the global fans being the outer circle. A real fan gains cultural capital by being unconditionally loyal to one club. Their frugality in terms of consumption of goods like merchandising, as they see it as a desacralizing characteristic to their subculture. Real fans' cultural capital is earned through their ability to persevere with the team in difficult times. On the contrary, casual fans' cultural capital often consists of supporting more than one team, as they may have only initially gained interest through one celebrity-like player. They often support the most successful clubs, and they may rely on highlights packages more often, as watching football live is not as important to them as the local fan. Premier League clubs favour the casual fan, as their willingness to partake in commodity fetishism is what their habitus is founded on, compared to local fans, which is much more nuanced and less profitable, as focus is on creating hostile atmospheres in the terraces through tribal chanting, which often consists of derogatory or offensive lyrics, which harms the league's aim for inclusivity and the club's ability to market themselves. So what does this mean? Well, there's no doubt that the Premier League is now considered a multi-billion-dollar industry, as more and more clubs are being listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
The nature of what the Premier League has become, we look at where it's going. When guys like me sit here saying the Netflix of football, when we talk, go and look at what Netflix's market cap is. It's worth 230 billion. Right now, look at what the English Premier League can become if it gets its act together. Says thank you very much to your lot over at Sky. We'll take it from here and build its own platform. It'll be worth 100 billion quid, that Premier League. So if you weren't a billionaire as an owner when you went into that league, you'll be a billionaire as a result of being a shareholder in that league. This is about uber money. And unfortunately, it's also about trying to hitch the wagon of the lessers to those that have. And that's the key. How do you keep the key components of English football together whilst the enormous opportunities exist inside the world of business of football?
As the Premier League continues to broaden its horizons with further commercialisation, it runs the risk of implementing a North American style of sports industry, encapsulated by Guy Debord's theory of society and the spectacle, whereby sport is viewed as a commodity and the fans as consumers.
These days, I think there's been a recognition that sports works. Not only is it the ultimate reality TV, but it's a great way to engage a consumer or to engage somebody that's running a business.
This is in stark contrast to England's perspective of football as a product of community. It is, of course, the people's game after all. In England, football is viewed as a means of community, which the government has supported in its rule that each club must have a local community charity, with the aim of improving their respective local areas. Should the consumer culture of the league continue, further class alienation of local fans is inevitable, with the rise in prices of TV subscriptions and ticket prices already skyrocketing, pricing many people out from being able to support their club. This process also makes cultural homogenisation of fans much more likely, as only fans from certain social classes will be able to afford to support their team.
At football clubs, are they businesses, are they social institutions, are they a mixture of both? And I think the reality, of course, is that many of them are trying to be a mixture of both. But there's always a risk that when you adopt business approaches or business practices, that you potentially risk or undermine the kind of social relationships that have created the value of the brand in the first place. And I think there's a bit of a balancing act there for clubs and for club executives to live within the business world that they're in. There, of course, is an opportunity for them, but also not in any sense, however inadvertently, to be seen to be kind of exploiting the supporters and only seeing them as kind of customers or opportunities for revenue generation.
As further rumours surrounding the introduction of the European Super League, where England's Big Six would depart the Premier League in favour of a hyper-commercialised league showcasing Europe's best and most popular clubs week in, week out. This type of league is much more like America's NFL or NBA format, where clubs become franchises, capable of relocating into new areas without the fear of loss of market. Some local fans have welcomed the idea, as they see the exclusion of the elite clubs that are fueled by the casual fans as getting their football back. What the Premier League will need is principles of good regulation that are encouraged throughout the Football Association and partnering organisations such as FIFA and UEFA. The upcoming challenge is to maintain English football's identity through maintaining commercial growth at a controllable level, without decreasing the value of the brand. Without a doubt, there will be a change in the structure of football should capital continue to increase and demand for more spectacle matches between giants intensifies, rather than watching Burnley against West Brom on a Saturday evening.